Have you launched a product on Amazon only to watch it crash and burn because it was expensive and you didn't have enough cash to compete with the top sellers? Or have you struggled to find products that you can even afford to launch in the first place because you actually have a realistic budget of like $10,000 or less for your products? Well, if that's the case, then I want you to watch this training video because I know that there are several Amazon experts that would tell you that you have to launch products that have a sales price of $30 or higher in order to make a reasonable profit on Amazon. They say this because they think they're actually trying to help you. The common idea is that ads take up too much of your profit margin if you sell lower priced products. However, these experts are doing you a massive disservice by not showing you what selling low priced products actually looks like and how the math works out. Here's a secret that I didn't even realize myself until recently. I have never sold a $30 product or more on Amazon. Now, I've reached over $12 million in sales with my brands and brands I work directly on since 2013, and not one single product ever sold for $30 or more on Amazon. So when I say there are profitable products to be found and generate income on Amazon for less than $30, I definitely have a ton of experience with these products. Of course, some of my clients do sell products over $30, and you can do it. However, it takes a bigger initial investment than you might think, and that's what I want to reveal for you today. Make sure to watch this video all the way through because I'm going to show you some very valuable spreadsheets that you're going to be able to get your hands on after this video is over. So make sure to watch until the end. So if I take a look at just two products here, now these are both an example of real products that I've actually seen, and I'm going to use real data, but I want you to see something and just understand that these are kind of typical, but not necessarily, the only ways that this can go. So in product one, you have a selling price of $9.99, and product two, you have a selling price of $34.99. Immediately, you're going to think product two, you're going to probably make more money. Well, the Amazon commission, which is 15% for most categories, is going to take $1.50 away from the $10. So it seems like a lot, obviously, because it's a $10 product. And then $5.25 off of the $34.99 product. Doesn't seem as much because, it's got a higher price. However, you got a higher price FBA pick and pack fee. If you didn't know, there is a low price product FBA selling fee. So if you're under $10, you can actually get in, and especially if you're in a light and small, small category, you can get as low as $2.29. And in this particular case, this product is the lowest and smallest. So it's $2.29. Product two is around $6. So it actually can be more than that, it can be less than that, but generally it's going to be around that $6 price. And if we're talking about cost of goods, there's that product there, number one, which is $1, and then product two, which is $5. So you can start to see, just because something is, 4 or 5 times more expensive to sell, you can start to see it's about 4 or 5 times more expensive to actually purchase as well. The freight cost, 20 cents to $1. Sales per month. Now this is where it gets interesting because generally speaking, a $10 product will sell pretty well. Obviously, it's not guaranteed that you're going to sell 20 units a day, which is what this is at. But then if you look over here, again, this is based on pretty real data. If you look at product number two here, it's only selling about 5 units a day, which is not bad. It's kind of expected, 5 units a day. That's okay. But you're looking at 4 times sales volume for product one versus product two. And then the advertising cost per unit, if you just take an 18% tacos and say that's what you're going to take away from each product, you're looking at $1.80 for product one and $6.30 for product two. So that's an average advertising cost per unit. The total profit per unit after ads is $3.20 for product one, which is about 32%, and about $11.39, which is probably roughly about the same for about product number two, roughly about 32% or so, 30%. Now, the thing that's going to make that decision for you is whether or not you make more actual profit at the end of the month, not per unit, but overall put back into your bank account, so that you can use it to either, raise money for the business or to actually even help pay yourself, right? So you can make income. And if you look there, you're going to get $1,920 from product one per month based on these numbers, and you're only going to get $1,708 from product two. So if I'm looking at these two products side by side and saying, okay, they both do okay, but if I'm only going to have to spend, X amount of dollars, $2 basically to get this product in versus $10 to get this product into stock, which one would I rather do? I'd probably rather sell product number one versus product number two. So that's what I would do. I'd rather sell product number one than product number two. And this is basic math. You can add those up, you can subtract them, you can do whatever you want. You can look at the screen, you can take a screenshot, you can do the math yourself. But this is telling you right there that you can actually make $1,920 from product one versus product two. Now, obviously, if you got 600 sales from product two, that would be great. You'd make a lot more money. But again, products that are under $10 typically sell much higher than products over $30. And that's where the profitability for your income and your business really kick in. if you can start to make actual everyday profit, every month profit, instead of kind of having these peaks and lulls from seasonality or from holiday selling. Michael Dell of the Dell Computer Company once said, "We were always focused on our profit and loss statement, but cash flow was not a regularly discussed topic. It was as if we were driving along watching only the speedometer when in fact we were running out of gas." The main thing you have to consider when launching a product is how much money you have available, aka your cash flow or budget. So why are low price products better for you to sell than a high price product? Well, I'm going to first tell you about a few benefits of low price products. Then I'll show you how they actually produce income. So here are some benefits of low cost products. First, you actually get high conversion rates because people don't think too much about a $10 or $20 purchase. They're more willing to just go ahead and take that risk. Obviously, they'll look at the reviews, they'll look at the sales price, they'll look at the quality, the listing, everything like that. But they're going to take a little bit more risk for a product that doesn't cost very much because it's not much out of their pocket, right? Also, these products tend to get low return rates because people tend not to care to return a $10 or $20 product. It's not worth their time. They also have a high sales ceiling or volume because more people buy everyday good quality products on Amazon than high-end or more expensive purchases that require more information or even possibly touching the product. It's very easy to get good reviews on low price products because if you have a good quality product that does what it says it will do and you sell at a price under $20, then people will give you way higher star ratings and better reviews because they're not thinking this is too high of a price for the product. And also, most trained sellers don't know how to find these products because almost every training program says to avoid them because they're trying to focus on profit per unit instead of cash flow or income. And remember, profit per unit doesn't matter if you get very low sales volume. You only generate a decent income for yourself if you get a decent amount of sales every month. So why do most sellers look for high profit products? Well, because they're looking for a home run every time. But do you know any baseball players that hit a home run every time? I want to talk to you about Moneyball. If you aren't familiar with the movie or the book or even the real scenario, let me break it down in a nutshell. The general manager of the Oakland Athletics baseball team had a problem. He was the head of a small market team trying to win against teams with way more money. And instead of trying to hit home runs, steal bases, and focus on individual players, he used metrics called sabermetrics to find players who could get on base, which leads to more runs being scored, and more runs on the board led to more wins. He stopped focusing on individual players and focused on the team as a whole and how they could get more runs for their money. Now, the Oakland A's never won the World Series, but this concept was adopted by the Boston Red Sox a few years later, and they won the World Series for the first time since trading Babe Ruth. So how does this relate to your Amazon products? Well, simply put, don't try to hit home runs with products. Instead, get money in the bank, aka runs on the board. The best way to make an income on Amazon is to have less costly products using less of your cash and getting quick sales. Now let's do some quick math again because everyone has to have a budget that is set for their business and for each product. The budget I think that is reasonable for most sellers is between $5,000 to $15,000 per product. So let's say $10,000 is an average budget over the first 3 to 6 months. If you have $10,000 and need 1,000 or more units for 4 to 5 months of inventory, then here's what those costs look like. You can see, again, same two products, right? The cost of goods for product one would look like, $1 for the cost of goods, 20 cents for freight. So if you need 1,000 units, that's $1,200. If you need the same amount of inventory, now I'm not saying you would, but you might want to have to get, maybe it's an MOQ or something like that. So you might need 1,000 units and you take $5 for the cost of goods and $1 for the freight cost. You might need $6,000 because that's 6,000, $6 times 1,000 is $6,000. So I have to ask you, would you rather spend $6,000 on just inventory and freight on a product that gets the same profit as a $1,200 product? Do you think you stand a chance in the niche if 60% of your budget is tied up on the first order? So which one are you going to choose? I know I would much rather spend $1,200 to make $1,900 than $6,000 to make the same or even slightly more. Inventory, freight, and marketing will all eat into your budget. Inventory is dependent on how much each unit costs you to make. Freight will be determined by the size and weight of the units, and marketing will be determined by how competitive your niche is. This is something almost no one ever talks about. Well, I'm talking about it with you right now. Remember this quote: the competitiveness of your niche will determine how long and how much money it takes for you to be profitable. Wait, what? All right, think of it this way. Some products on Amazon have 10 or more sellers selling 1,000 units a month. Other products only have 1 or 2 sellers selling 1,000 or more units a month. Do you think it'll be easier or more difficult to compete against 10 sellers with over 1,000 units a month, or just 2? So 10 doing 1,000 units a month or 2 competitors doing 1,000 units a month? Which one will be easier, do you think? Well, if you're not sure what easier means in this case, I'm going to ask you straight up. Do you think it will be cheaper or more expensive to compete with those 10 or those 2? The more sellers with high volume will mean your niche is more competitive, aka more expensive. Nobody else talks about the cost of competition, and they certainly don't help you determine if you have a big enough budget for a specific niche. But that's what I wanted to show you today. The first thing we need to do is find products that you can afford. So how do you find products that will sell well and fit in your budget? First, you can look at customers who bought this also bought that. On almost every product listing on Amazon, if you scroll down somewhere in the page, it's going to say customers who bought this also bought that. If you don't see that, you might see another one that says related products. So these are products related to the product that you're looking at. These are great ways to find products. And what you actually do is you go in there and you don't look for the same thing. So if like you're looking at a hammock, you don't look for the other hammocks. You might look for hammock accessories or things that are related to being in a hammock or things that are just related to being outside. Look for those other products that might not be so expensive. A hammock might cost you $10 to make or $6 or whatever it is to ship in and manufacture. Whereas, hammock straps might only cost $2 and you could sell those much faster. Also, look at subcategory top 100 lists. On every product listing, there is a BSR or bestseller ranking, and usually it'll have a subcategory that says, for hammocks, it might say, sports and outdoors, and then below that, it'll say hammocks and hammock accessories or something like that. Whatever the subcategory is, click on that and look around at the top 100s for all the subcategories in that niche. Also, think about this, the thing that goes with the thing. I know this is a weird thing to actually say out loud, but this is something I've always told people and it's just kind of stuck and resonated. So what is the thing that goes with the thing? Simply put, these are accessories. So if you think about things that you're thinking to sell, you might think, well, is there something that goes with that might be actually cheaper to sell? Or is there something else related to that product that is cheaper to sell? Other things you can do is you can go to competitor retail stores and you can go to competitor sites. So if you're selling outdoor products, maybe go to REI and go look around at their websites and see if there's anything on the site that is small, lightweight, and not brand specific like a shoe or jacket. Maybe there's some accessories on there that you could sell as well. So I'm going to show you kind of just a quick product finding exercise. So if you're thinking about doing a hammock, for example, I just use this one a lot because I've been looking at hammocks recently. I'm not trying to sell them. It's just a summer seasonal product that's kind of coming to the end because it's now the end of summer. But if I just go look at some of the best sellers here, and there's going to be some really, high selling products here. Usually the best seller is this Wise Owl one. So I would actually go to this product and I would say, okay, I'm going to look for other products related to hammocks. So I'm going to click on that product. I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to start looking around. So you can see frequently bought together. So it's got a hammock rain fly, or basically a tarp that goes over your hammock. And it's also got a bug net. Right there's 2 ideas that I didn't think about when I was thinking to sell a hammock. But I bet you these ones, they probably aren't as high priced as a hammock, even though it shows that they are. You probably could get them if they didn't have all these accessories, just the tarp or something, maybe for a lot less, so you could look into those. Now you can also look, and if you scroll down here, there's going to be probably a few different things here. So similar brands you might like, but at the very bottom, it's probably going to say related products or customers who bought this. So you can see right here, very bottom, customers who bought this item also bought that. So you can see the bug net, you can see the tarp. And then if you can look over here, you see a camping pillow. So maybe that's a little cheaper. You can also see a camping blanket. Now that one's sponsored, but this is just a way to get more ideas. Now I'm not saying you'd sell any of those either, but I'm saying just come over here and start looking around at other ideas. So you can see hammock straps. You can also see microfiber camping towels. You can see a power bank, a solar charged power bank. So that's pretty cool. I'm not saying you should sell any of these. I'm saying you should look at them and then also research them as well, which we'll talk about here in a second. There's also another compact sleeping bag. And then there's solar camping string lights. Again, this one's a sponsored one, but that's a pretty cool thing. You can see it's currently selling for $21 roughly, but it does say a limited time deal, list normally at $35. I'm not sure if that's an accurate, list price or if they've reduced it a little bit or if that's really what they sell at, but that's another product to keep in mind. You can also go through here. You can see more hammock straps. This one is a hammock sleeve, which is a pretty interesting product. Again, the thing that goes with the thing. I've never heard of a hammock sleeve until right now. You can also see a portable lantern. So it clips on and it hangs from trees and it looks like it can be set down and kind of rearranged. So that's a pretty cool one. Another string lights. You can see, backpacking and camping. It looks like some sort of cooking utensil. I'm not sure exactly what that is. But again, if you're just looking for things that are under, $15, $20, whatever, you can see other things here. So here's some clip-on LED camping lanterns as well. So that's $12.74. Life Straw, that's a brand that kind of done that. There are, generic versions of that as well. So you could do a personal water filter like that. You've got, LED flashlights. This one is a sleeping pad. Now that's obviously going to be very, kind of big and bulky. So I'm not saying you would sell that necessarily. You got fire starter blocks, fire color changing packets. And now some of this stuff might be flammable, but again, you're just looking for ideas. You're not looking to necessarily to sell all these products, but you should be researching these to see what the process, the competition, the profits and margins and all that stuff look like. So if you're not doing stuff like this and you're only going to like software to find products, you're definitely not going to get the right products, and you're not going to find things that actually fit your budget. And you can see I've only gone through 6 of 14 pages. Now I could go to other other hammocks and listings and just see if there's, products related to this and other things, because then you'll find a lot more things, I believe. And you can also click on other things in this area. Maybe, the sleeping bag, go there and then see what else comes up for that. You go to the shovel, click on that and see what else comes up for that. And you have a never ending, basically, way to dig for gold on Amazon. Now, a couple other ways you can do that again is you can go to the top, subcategories or whatever. So let's go up here and I'll show you what I mean by that. So under item details, it'll say bestsellers rank 658 in sports and outdoors. And it's got hammocks and camping hammocks. So if you actually click on hammocks, you can see what some of the other, subcategories are. So you can see hammocks, hammock stands, hammock chairs, hammock stands and accessories. So you can click on that, just accessories. So it's under patio furniture and accessories. You can also just go to patio furniture and accessories. You can look at all these other ones if this is something that you're looking for. You can look at all these, different subcategories to find things that you might, want to sell. So for example, if I go back in there and I look at accessories and see what's there, well, look at that. Hanging straps, hammock straps. You've got just little green swing hangers. And these things are selling for a lot, even though it doesn't seem like they should be, because that's pretty expensive for just those. But yeah, you could go through all these subcategories and find all these really good ideas. Now, the next thing you will have to do is actually analyze these products. And that's where the Launchalyzer comes in. And the Launchalyzer is actually a spreadsheet that I've developed over years to kind of help you understand how much it costs to launch these products. So here I am over at the Launchalyzer. Now there is another tab on this that's called the Profitability, which you can actually download this spreadsheet right below in the bonus material. So if you want to do that, you can get both of these tools. The Profitability will help you actually understand the viability of your current products if you're selling on Amazon right now. And the Launchalyzer will actually help you understand the feasibility of future products and whether or not you can actually afford them yourself. So how does this work? So the first thing we need to do is we will actually go over to Amazon.com to see, what product we're going to look up. So let's just say we're going to look up hammock straps, because these are a little bit less expensive than, the hammock themselves. So the first thing we would do is actually look at the top sellers and see what's actually selling really well. And you can see here, like, Amazon is showing 1,000 in the last month, 200 bought in the past month, 700 bought in the past month, 900 bought in the past month. Now, I'd recommend using a tool like AMZScout. The difference here is that they use data that's not always going to align with what Amazon has in there, because this is a summer seasonal product. So right now, Amazon's saying it's going to only have about 1,000 bought in the past month. But based on the BSR of the category, it looks like, AMZScout showing 3,000, because essentially it's kind of on a, downward swing, but it's got the same BSR. So that BSR's, the sales volume is actually taken as an average over the whole year, not at any specific time. So yes, during slow months, the volume might be a little bit skewed and, a little higher on AMZScout, but that kind of helps you prepare for the, big sales volume months anyway. So the seasonal days and all that stuff. So you're fine to use either one. If you don't have a subscription, you can always just use these as an estimate right now and just kind of get guesses in there. But I would still suggest to get a tool like AMZScout or Jungle Scout, because it will give you fairly accurate data and it'll help you analyze these products. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and click the Pro AI niche analyzer right here. So I'm going to click on that, and it's the Chrome browser extension, and it's going to pop up with this, big, graph, right? This big matrix, and it's going to start to, look overwhelming, but really all you need to look at from this is the estimated sales column. And you also need to look at what ones are sponsored or not. So I know that the Mallow Me is actually the first one that's not sponsored, because if I scroll up to the top of the page here, you'll say sponsored, 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 sponsored. Now, the reason why I'm getting rid of these is because they don't organically show up on page 1. I need to analyze the top organic 15 competitors, because that's the real estate that I want to get into on Amazon, so that way I can actually, be profitable. Basically, if you're not in the top 15, you struggle to maintain profitability for most niches, because you'll be spending so much money on ads and not just getting organic sales regularly. So what I want to do is I want to start to look at the top 15. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download the CSV file. And then I'm also going to make sure I remove any other sponsored ones that aren't organically showing up there. So now I've downloaded the search terms for the hammock straps, and I'm going to pull that up. So you can see here that I've got there's a Microsoft Excel file, and it's going to download. So hopefully you have Microsoft Excel. Now this column R is going to have the estimated sales. Again, like I said, I want to make sure that I don't have any sponsored products in here. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm just going to make sure that, it says like the Wise Owl, ENO, and Tree Swing thing are sponsored. So I want to go make sure that those ones actually are sponsored. So if I scroll down here, I'm going to see Wise Owl, ENO, I see the Tree Swing one, and then a SZH Lux. So I'm going to actually remove those as well from my spreadsheet, because they're not actually supposed to be there. So it's going to be these ones right here. And then I got to remove their sales. So then what I want to do is I want to take the estimated sales of the top 15. So I'm going to scroll down until I see a count of 15 now. Some of these, again, may or may not organically be there. Sometimes there might be a sponsored thing in here or whatever. But for this purpose, I just want to show you that it's going to be 15. And it's going to say 15 here at the bottom of the actual spreadsheet. And then it's going to give you a sum. That sum is 6883. And then the average, so if you divide that by 15, it's 459. Now what that is it's the average sales for a month. So if you divide that by 30, you'll get what you want is the average sales per day. So we're going to put average sales per day of the top 15 right here. So if you take 458 divided by 30, that's about 15 units per day. So we'll put the average top seller. So the average of the top 15 daily units sold is 15 units. So the top seller is actually 3,000, which is about 100 units a day. So we're going to go 100 units here. Now, again, we know that this is in the downward part of the season. So maybe, because I'm filming this in the end of September, so maybe that is probably more accurately, like Amazon is saying, around 30 units or 40 units a day. So I could adjust that if I want. But basically, I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to look at the price point of that top seller. So the top seller is selling at $17.99. I'm going to go check the estimated cost of goods. So I'm going to go to Alibaba for this. So I'm on Alibaba.com. I've typed in hammock straps into the search bar, and I'm just going to kind of look. So you can see this one here looks like one, maybe, I don't know if that's one per one. So 50 cents to 90 cents. You got $5.30. You've got 30 to 50 cents, $2.25. It's kind of an up and down amount. So $1.50 to $2.50, $1.20 to $2.90. These are kind of more maybe what I'm thinking would be a typical price, $1 to $3, somewhere in there. You can see another one for $1.30, $2.89. So if I just say, maybe $2 somewhere in there would be a decent, maybe $2.25 would be a decent estimation for that. It could be $3, but I'm just going to put $2.25 in there. Estimated freight cost, it's actually not going to be that high. It's not going to be like $2 or anything like that. But what we can do is we can actually go to, we can go look up the FBA fee cost first, and that'll give us an idea of kind of how heavy this thing is. So if we go to the FBA fee calculator and just type that into Google, and we can actually click the top link there, what we'll do is we'll just continue as guest. We'll take the top seller's ASIN. So we'll click on their product, and you'll see this little number, string of characters up here, B01, whatever that is. We'll take that, we'll pop it into the search bar here, hit search, and you can see it doesn't actually show the product. I have no idea why. That's never happened in the history of me using this tool, but I'm actually going to go ahead and look at another, secondary seller or something like that to see if there's another one out there. So that way I can kind of see, what the fees might be. So let's open this one here and just look at, so this one looks pretty close to the same. So let's go look at this ASIN, search that. And there you go. So this is the product we're looking for. So the fees, just the pick and pack fees is all I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the 15% and all that stuff because our sheet will actually calculate that all. So $338 are the pick and pack fees. Now, based on that, I can make some assumptions. I can make an assumption that this is pretty light and pretty small. So I don't think if I ship this by sea, I don't think I'll even pay $1. I think I'll probably pay more like 35 to 50 cents. So if I put in even 50 cents, that's going to give me a pretty accurate, data sense of data right there. So you can see now that it's already, calculated the 15% commission. It's already calculated your profit per unit if you sell at $17.99, or if, that's what the seller currently is selling at. 50.93% is the profit margin. The estimated daily revenues is going to be at $7,645 if you get to 15 units a day. And then you're going to see the profit per month before ads is right around $4,000. And if you get a TACOS of about 20%, which is a little high, but that's kind of just estimating on the high side, your profit per month is actually going to be $2,364. And then it's going to show you the estimated cost to launch. So the first thing you probably should have put in here is what your budget is for the first 3 to 6 months of your business. If it's $10,000, put in $10,000. But let's go over here and look. So the product, this one particularly, is saying that it's going to cost you about $11,602. Now, I'm not saying that that's an exact number. I'm just saying that's the forecast for this. So can you afford this product? It's currently saying no. But obviously, if you can stretch it another $1,600, you would actually have a pretty good product here. So if you had the ability to get another $1,600 and spend $11,602 for this product, you might have just found a really, really good product. Again, I'm only talking about hammock straps here, and I'm not saying that this product doesn't flux, in between the seasons and stuff like that. It's very seasonal. So you probably need to find a product that's also going to sell in the winter, not just in the summer, for example. But what I'm saying is, this product looks pretty good on paper right now. You can obviously do some research and look at it seasonally. So you can look at what the sales volume looks like in July versus the end of September. And that would also give you a pretty clear indication as to whether or not this would be a good product. Now, another thing I'd tell you is just because I'm doing this product as an example, probably don't go out and sell this product, because there will be a whole bunch of other people that will sell this product as well, thinking this is the gold standard on Amazon. They need to go out and sell this product. So don't make that mistake. Go out and find your own product, because that's going to be something that is gold that nobody else knows about. Just because I'm doing this as an example does not mean you should go out and do it. And again, these data points could be kind of inaccurate because I'm not showing the seasonality of July, and I'm not showing the opposite side of the non-seasonality of like maybe February where it's really cold, or January where it's really cold. So keep those things in mind. So now you should be able to see how you can actually find and analyze products that you can fit in your budget instead of just going out and launching whatever and think maybe, fingers crossed, hope for the best. Finally, you have to make the decision on which product to choose out of the best looking opportunities. So once you have 5 to 10 products that look like they can work, how do you pick the best one? Well, usually I choose the one that costs me the least but can give me the best return on a monthly basis. So if it costs me $1,500 but can give me $2,000 back, that's a pretty good product to choose for me. If I have to spend $6,000 and it gives me $2,000 back every month, I usually don't tend to pick those types of products. So again, looking at these 2 products, which one would you choose? The one that costs you like $1,200 to start, or the one that costs you $6,000 to start? Well, I know which one I'm picking. I'm taking option 1 in this scenario because it costs me much less and makes me more or close to the same. Now, I also want to address one more thing that a lot of sellers tell me, which is I want to sell cool products, not everyday boring products. I want to sell hammocks, not hammock straps. My response? You can either get busy losing money on cool products, or you can hit your income goals by selling everyday products. So do you see how you can find low-cost, income-generating products on Amazon now?